everyone, it's Amra this side, and today we will be I'll be giving you a demo on Salesforce CPQ, what it is, how we use it, and why do we use it, and what is its market value, I would say, and how can you do the certification and everything. So it's like the first session where I'll cover, I'll give you a brief introduction how you can just get started and what are the topics, what is the data object model. I know it's difficult to, if you're starting with a product, so it's difficult to grasp in the starting. But if we are clear with the data model, then things they get pretty well and they have a path forward. So right now, let's talk about Salesforce CPQ. Now, what is CPQ? So basically, CPU stands for configure, price, and quote. Now, what exactly it is? So, for example, if you're buying a product from somewhere, so there is a process that has to be followed. That is configuring the product, and if I say configure, that means it could be like, for example, if you are, let's say, buying a bed. So if you are configuring it, let's say you want side tables as well, you want a lamp as well, you want the mattress, you want the pillow. So we are just trying to configure that product. That is what configuring is. Now let's come to pricing. So after the configuration has been done, now obviously all the different products are going to have different pricings, right? The table has got a different price, the lamp has got a different price, mattress has a different price, bed has a different price. So all together combined will give you a pricing in the second step. Now the q, that stands for quote. So that is the stage wherein the quote will be prepared and it would be handed over to you. And now the quote has got all the details that mentions your name, your address, your the pricing and all the items that you have purchased. So this is the basic, I would say, the layman definition for CPQ. Now coming to Salesforce CPQ, it is almost related to that. It's just we have got different objects involved in it. Okay, so Salesforce CPQ is a complete different package that anyone can install in their org. And there is a trial org as well that we get. So I can share the link with you wherein you will get the URL for that and you can install in your orgs. So once you install it, as my screen is visible, so I'm logged in into my org. I have CPQ installed. So I would just show you the first thing wherein you can check whether the CPQ has been installed correctly or not. So you can just navigate to this quick find box wherein you see the just write install packages. You would see this option of install packages. Click on that. So now if you would scroll down, you would see Salesforce CPQ. So right now we have this Salesforce CPQ. So currently my org has a pretty old version, that is 232. Currently we are running, I think 242 is the latest version that is being running. So my org is a pretty old one, hence I haven't updated it, and I definitely need it for my testing as well. So that's the reason it is not updated. So now, how do you identify it's the CPQ package? So there is a namespace which is known as SBQQ. So if your package has the namespace with SBQQ, that means it's Salesforce CPQ. And the org status is active, and there are orgs that will expire. There are trial orgs that are for 90 days. So here you would see the expiration date, and this is the date when the org was created. Now here are different options that we will explore later, maybe once we have an idea of the data object model and how things flow in CPQ. So once we have the basic knowledge of that, maybe we can explore it further. So this was just how you can check the first step of using CPQ. Like the first step is installing it, and how you can check whether it has been installed successfully or not, or if you want to check in any or if CPQ is there. So this is the way you can check it. Rest, all these options we will explore in the upcoming sessions. So now coming to the CPQ object data model, what it is. So CPQ has got some basic objects. I would say there are the key objects, and around which CPQ revolves. The data model is built around a product, the first object. Second is a price book, then the quote and the quote line items. So obviously, it's just not limited to four of these objects. There are multiple objects apart from these, but these are the basic ones, and these are the core ones around which CPQ plays an important role. So now, what is a product? So product is something that you want to buy it, that a company would sell, and that has got the basic details which any product would have. Definitely the name, the price, or all these like descriptions and all. Now, so once we have a product, it doesn't come, you know, without a price book. Obviously, that is 100% sure that a price book should have a product should have a price book. Now, what is a price book? Price book is basically a collection wherein all the prices for different products are stored. So there could be multiple price books in the org, but a product can have depending it is not limited to one price book. It can have different price books depending upon the currency that is being used. Okay, for example, if your quote is using Indian currency INR, then you can define a price in the price book in INR currency, USD currency, euro currency. So a product can have different currencies. Okay, so, but a product cannot exist without a price book. So, price book is something that it maintains the prices of different products. And when we are selecting any product, we refer to the price book of that product, and we mention the prices accordingly. Not we, but obviously Salesforce CPQ will do that. Now, what is quote? Quote is basically, I would say, an object wherein we store different information, like what is the product the customer is purchasing, what are the quote line items that the customer needs, what is the account name, what is the customer name, and all the pricing information, and if any customer information has been added or anything the customer has added and he would like to see. So it represents a single place wherein customer can access all the details. Now, quote line item. What is a quote line item? Quote line item is, like I gave you an example of the bed. So bed has got all the accessories like side table, lamp, mattress, pillow. So all these would be counted as quote line items. So whenever you're purchasing a product, so you can just customize it and add the line items accordingly. So these are the four key objects, and these objects, they have got different relationship between them, that we'll take a look. Once we log into the org and we start handling some business scenarios, and it would be easier for you to get an idea of whether they are master detail, whether they are um, lookup relationships. So we will take a look at that as well. So now, like this CPQ data model, it has got some benefits. Like the sales process is extremely, streamlined. We just we can automate anything in CPQ. So right now, I don't know if you guys would be familiar with it or not, but automating, when I say, it means there is no manual work involved. Like we can automate the calculations that are running in the code line items, or like for example, when a user changes the opportunity stage, you want a code to be created, we can do that as well. Like no human intervention would be there. So we just automate all the configuration, pricing, and the quoting process. First thing. Coming to the second point, increased accuracy. When I say increased accuracy, it means that the pricing that is there in the Salesforce CPQ is accurate and it is up to date. There is hardly an error. So, more 99% of the cases, there is no error that is being done by Salesforce CPQ unless there is any automation involved. So, what happens is user they customize the Salesforce CPQ as per their requirement, and it messes up things, and the calculations and pricings they go wrong because of that. it because might be possible they don't have a complete understanding of that, and their expectations are different, and the actual result is different. So so that ways it is messing up the calculations, and it shows incorrect pricing. So CPU, as considering as a system, it will not mess up, and it's always accurate with the pricing and all the information and all the details. Okay, so coming to the third point, that is greater visibility. So it gives a greater visibility means, so a company will, when they're using CPQ, they'll get to know like which products they are selling to, which customer they are selling, and which needs to be looked at, and if there is an increase in sales or decrease in sales. So all these things, they can be considered from Salesforce CPQ point of view. Now I'll open this data model that I have with me. I know this is quite complex, and I would not recommend you to take a look at the complete one, because as you are beginners, or you would not be having a complete understanding. So I would just take it from in between. And obviously, there are certain things that I would skip for the time being, and I will cover that later, maybe in the later classes. Okay, so let me see from where I should begin. Okay. So we have covered this much, that is a data object. And twin field is something we would just go in the later sections, because all these concepts, they require, first of all, you to understand what is the data model, how is data flowing from one object to another. I can explain you the concept of twin fields. There's no nothing would harm me, it would harm you. You would not have any idea of what objects are behind the scenario. It would be just me talking. So there's no point in explaining twin fields and data migration as well. Package settings, I can tell you, but again, no point. So let me first explain the data model once again, then maybe we can take a look at the package settings. So what happens is, I would just explain it from the middle. So we have the basic, the product, the object from where the whole process starts. That is the opportunity object. Now, on an opportunity, we have got opportunity name is there, opportunity stage, start date, end date, and there are multiple fields. Okay, and on opportunity, we have got a related list. There is a relationship between opportunity and code. So in an opportunity, we can create multiple codes. I can show you the process as well, how we create the opportunity and code line. So once you are in the code, a code has got multiple code line items. So a code has got an edit lines option, wherein you can just go into the code line editor of the code, edit those products, and accordingly you can customize and modify that. So an opportunity can have any number of codes, and a code can have any numbers of code line, but the catch here is, an opportunity has only one code that is marked as primary. Now, what is a primary code? So a primary code is something that syncs up with the opportunity. Now, what do you mean by syncing up? So code has got certain pricing, and the one code that is marked as primary, that pricing and that products are going to sync up with the opportunity. So it is mandatory to have a primary code, and you cannot have more than one primary code. So this is a process, syncing of opportunity and code. This is a process, that is provided as a out of the box by Salesforce CPQ. This is something that you cannot bypass, or else if you do that, you will definitely run into errors any point of time. By the way, this is not something that can be overcome. Okay, now. Okay, so now a code line can have any number of code line groups. So when you're in the code line editor, you can put code lines into different groups. I would just confirm that. Okay, so this is the lookup relationship between code line and code has a lookup relationship. So in lookup relationship, code and code line are connected via this relationship. Okay, and same goes for product code line and all. So now hmm, code line group, and inside the code line group you can specify as many code lines you want. We can I show you in my own, then maybe you'll be able to understand a better view of the objects and the relationship between them. What is the relationship like lookup or master detail? So that is something that we can take a look. So now that an opportunity has a code and a code has a code line item, and code line can be grouped into code line group. Okay, so product and all. Okay, an opportunity can have as many products, and when an opportunity and a code sync, the opportunity products will flow to the code, and that too it depends upon the package setting. It is not that anytime you add a product on the opportunity, it will sync with the code. No, it depends on the package setting, and I'll explain it. Now, as I have already explained, that every product should be there in a price book entry, and every product has got a price book associated with it. Now, this is the pricing section, which is very complicated, and I have other topics that should be covered prior to this. So we'll take a look at that. Let me see if there is something that okay. I think we can cover. So we have creating an account, contact, and opportunity. We have done this. First, you need to create an account, then contact, opportunity, and then after the opportunity, you have to create code line, and that ways you'll be able to go through the coding process. Okay. So now let's come to what are price rules. Hmm. Okay, so basically, what is a price rule? Price rule is something like with which you can update the prices, or you can trigger calculations in the code line editor. Okay, so there are different type of. So with the price rule, you can just automate any pricing calculation that is being run in the background. So price rule has got a price condition and a price action now. And then there are evaluation scopes, like when you want to run this price rule, whether it is in the configurator or the calculator. Configurator is once you are in the configure screen, and calculator is like when you do calculate. So then there are events wherein you want this rule to fire, like whether none or save or exit, leave, quick save. So edit. We have different events on which this price rules can be run. It can be customized as per the user's requirement. There is the hard and fast rule that the rule will run on XYZ event only. So it is something that can be customized as per your requirement. Now, for example, you want the rule to run when there is a particular price condition. For example, you want this, there is a rule that you have written that if the price, like for example, you have added a printer in your quote. If the price of the printer is more than 100 rupees, then add an additional discount of 5%. So here the condition would be price more than 100. So you can specify any condition in your rule, and if that condition is satisfied, if those conditions are being met, then the action is executed, and that is known as price action. So now coming to price conditions. So we have to specify on which object we are checking the condition. It could be code line, product option, summary variable. Then there is a field called field on which you have to specify the product code on which you are applying this condition. Now, tested variables have summary variables. Summary variables are also something like price, similar to price condition. It's just it involves a object that is a lookup to another object. Okay. Then you have a tested formula filter, like operator values are there, equal to or not equal to. So all those operators that are present, you will find it over there. Then there are other like type, have, is it value, variable, formula field, all those things are there. Then there is a price action object that has the API name as SBQQ price underscore underscore price action underscore underscore C. So that is called the target object, like wherein you want to execute that. If the condition is being met, the condition is true, then execute that. So which object, what is the target object you want to execute it on? Whether it is code, code line, product option, and what is it, which field you want to update, that is target field, like unit price, discount, percent, and all. And then subsequently, there are other fields as well, like what is the value you want to update, if that's a formula, or is it from where it is the lookup and source memory variable. So those you can update. So basically, price rules, they're used to, as I mentioned earlier, they used to automate price calculations and update any code line fields. So you can apply discount based on the product or whatever the condition you have. So now coming to the package settings, now that you have an idea of how the data object model is, how things work, I'll do configure on this. There might be some package settings that might be missing in my org as it's not on the latest version. But let's see what are the values that we can see, and let me try to explain you one by one. So there are different tabs over here. So depending on that, we can enable these features and see those in effect. I'll start with line editor. So line editor has got multiple of fields, checkboxes and all. So basically, hide renewed assets when editing. This is a checkbox that will be used to hide the line items that are there for renewed assets in edit line. So obviously, you don't know what renewed is, so let's not get into this. Okay, so this also is of no use as of now. Hmm. Okay, in line editor, let me give you some idea about large code experience, code batch size, and large threshold. Basically, what happens is you have a code, you are adding 100 or 200 code lines, and you are hitting some governor limits. Let's say CPU time limit exceeded, okay, or CPU error timeout. So basically, what happens is in such scenarios, it's like we are sending more than the defined number of code lines to the Heroku service, and it is taking more CPU time. So in that scenario, we enable this large code experience, and then there is a code batch threshold and the code batch size, which we mentioned. So it is recommended to keep code batch size as 1 or 150. No, this should be, I think, 1. Batch size is 150. Yeah. So threshold is like, no, I am confused. This is 150 and this is 1. Threshold is like it will execute the code line with 150, but it will send the code with this line counts above this number will send those many lines. Okay, so code all the rules, that's not for you. Okay, so it will just send only those many values. Like for example, if your code has 130 lines and it is hitting the governor limits, and if you put 150, the error will be gone and you will not be hitting any governor limits. That means it will send these many code lines for the UI calls and code batch sizes. In one batch size, it's going to execute 150 code line items. And this is something that should be enabled when you are using these values. Okay, so what else we can cover? Okay, now coming to plugins. So as we saw, price rules were used to automate calculations. Similar to that, we can use QCP, that is code calculator plugin, that runs in the code line editor when you hit save, quick save, or calculate. And this is something, it's a JavaScript basically that you write. It is a custom script, and then you enter the name over here. So basically, it's like whatever calculations you want to perform. So you can just automate them. And then there is pricing and calculation. So there are scenarios when calculate immediately is not checked. User has to click save or quick save multiple times to see the updated pricing. So once you click on calculate immediately, the effect it will take place. And that means user will not have to click every time save to see the pricing. Okay. And then there is legacy service, new service. Legacy service definitely has got some drawbacks. We'll discuss that later. Then there is unit price scale. Basically, this is used to specify how many decimals should be there in the quote line values. There are certain fields that respect this unit price scales. So right now, if 5, like the value is 100, then it will show dot 100 dot till 5 decimal places it is going to show. Subscriptions and renewals we haven't covered, which is right now of no use. Now, quote disable initial quote sync is something when you're creating a code and an opportunity. Say if this checkbox is checked, then the first thing between the opportunity and the code is not going to happen. And whatever products you add in opportunity will not flow in code, and same goes for code as well. Whatever you do in that will not flow into opportunity. So if this is not checked, then the sync will happen. Okay. And this is the default validity, how long code should remain valid. That can be specified from here. And this is used to keep the opportunity products that are created by primary code after it is no longer primary, that I have already told you. Similarly, we have other fields as well. Now coming to order, we haven't gone into order and stuff. Now coming to additional settings. Additional settings, they state that triggers disabled. This checkbox is used to disable all the CPQ triggers, the standard triggers that we have. Okay, for a data migration process or wherein you don't want these triggers to execute. So if you are disabling that, remember after you're done with the task, enable that, because this is something that CPU functions with, or else you would see some inaccurate results. Now the quantity scales, it's the decimal places when viewing codes. What was that then? Okay, this was for unit price scale. Okay, so quantity is the decimal places for the quantity fields, like 4, then again after the decimal there will be 4 decimal places. Okay, so this is the product result group field name. So it is a field from the product object that will be used to group the product search results. So if you want to use, you can use any of the fields. Now product description field, it specifies the field from the product object to use for product description, like configuration, validator, anything. Theme you can change in general if you wanna apply. So OAuth refresh token is something like it is used to repair, access Salesforce CPQ APIs outside the Salesforce. The all the calculations that happen at Heroku external configurator URL you used for, when we are using external configurator in the code line editor. So we are accessing some APIs and you want the editor to open it, then you use this. And improved browser performance is something that reduces the load time within CPQ. There are scenarios, wherein if we are not using this, the CPQ doesn't function properly. Once we enable that, it functions. But since it is not the latest version of my org, hence we are seeing it here. Otherwise, it has been removed from here. So perform enhanced data access check is it's like permission sets to access or permission set to user. So there is not such effect on that. And enable large configurations is like if you are experiencing in a heap size error, CPU error during the in the code line editor, then you can enable this. And this is a feature that with which you can enable the product option drawer while in the QLE. Service region is basically a global region wherein the calculations take place, and it is advised to keep the closest to your region so that the calculations don't time out. Multiple bundles view is used with this external configurator layout, Wizard or Classic. And sort products in memory we can enable in. It speeds up the page for the customers that have got the large price books. So that's it for this. And So that was an overview of how CPQ works, what are the things, and yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.